Honorable Jimmy, please. Honorable colleagues, please can we find our seats? An announcement coming from the Office of the Minority Leader said you should be informed, all members of the opposition parties, that there will be an emergency meeting today as follows: venue conference room 028, that's temporary chamber, House of Representatives, time immediately after plenary, it is signed by the Minority Leader. Honorable colleagues, the next order of the day is the consideration of report of the Committee on Appropriations on the general principles of a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 54,990,165,355,396 naira only, which 3,645,758,925 naira only is for statutory transfers. 14,317,142,689,548 naira only is for debt service. 13,64,9,682,673 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 23,963,254,250 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2025. Honorable members will recall that the report was laid on Thursday, 13 February 2025. Honorable Abubakar Bichi, the Chairman Appropriation, will move for its consideration.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Abubakar Kabir Bichi, member representing Bichi Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker, from Kano State. I rise to move that the House do consider the report of the Committee on Appropriation of the Bill of an Act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 54,990,165,355,396 naira, of which 3,645,761,358,925 naira only is for statutory transfers. 14,317,142,689,548 only is for debt service. 13,064,9,682,673 only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 23,961,624,250,000 only is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on 31st December 2025. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Chairman, Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is James Abiodun Faleke. I represent the people of Ikeja Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second that this report for 2025 appropriation be read the second time. Thank you, sir.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Leader, can you move that the House resolve into the Committee of Supply?
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House do resolve to Committee of Supply to consider the report just presented. I so move.
Minority Leader, please can you second?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable George Bezimakos Otinobi. I represent the good people of Njikok and Ocha Federal Constituency. I arise to second the motion moved by our leader that this House resolve to Committee of Whole. I so move.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. That is it. House hereby resolves into the Committee of the Whole. The Chairman, appropriation, are you okay? Honorable colleagues, the Chairman Appropriation Committee is invited to give synopsis of this report for us to at least reflect before we start the main consideration. Chair, if you are ready, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Abubakar Bichi, member representing Pittsburgh constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Kano State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I hereby present the report of the Joint Committee on Appropriation of the 2025 Appropriation Bill. You may recall that on Wednesday, 18 December 2024, the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, laid before the joint sitting of the National Assembly the 2025 Appropriation Bill, tagged Budget of Restoration, Securing Peace and Building Prosperity, containing the budget estimate of the federal government revenue and expenditure for the 2025 fiscal year in accordance with Section 81, Subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as altered. The House debated the general principle of the bill on Thursday, 19 December 2024. The bill was read the second time and referred to the Committee on Appropriation for further legislative action. Thereafter, the committee referred the estimate of the various MDA to subcommittees that have jurisdiction over them. in compliance with the Order 19, Subsection 5, Subsection A of the House Standing Order 2023 as altered. To fast-track work on the bill, the committee drew up a work plan and issued guidelines to subcommittees for further legislative action. Further to the issuance of the guidelines, the committee met with the chairman of its subcommittees on Monday, 6 January 2025, and gave further brief on silent matters that will facilitate the completion of the legislative tasks within a reasonable time frame. Additionally, the committee held a one-day public hearing session on Thursday, 16 January 2025, to receive input from ministries, MDAs, and agencies, civil societies organizations, captains of industries and development partners, etc. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the summary of the 2025 appropriation bill is as follows. The initial proposal of the executive proposal was 49,740,165,355,396 naira only, of which 4,435,761,358,925 naira only is for statutory transfers. 16,327,142,689,549 naira only is for debt service. 14,123,544,196 14,123,544,196,406 naira only is for the current non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 14,853,717,110,517 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st December 2025. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, while processing the bill, the Joint Committee on Appropriations met the President Economic Team, which includes the Coordinating Minister of the Economy and Minister of Finance, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, the Minister of State Finance, the Director General Budget Office of the Federation, the Director General Debt Management Office, and the Accountant General of the Federation, to further discuss the revenue projection and expenditure of the 2025 appropriation bill. After the series of meetings held, the Committee on Finance, in conjunction with our committee, sourced additional revenue from the sum revenue generating agencies detailed below. Government-owned enterprises, GOEs, 1,853,879,970,697 naira. Federal Inland Revenue Services, FIRS, 1,497,600,000,000, which federal government 52% share of the increase in revenue from 22.1 trillion to 25.1 trillion after the deduction of cost of collection. While Nigerian Customs Service, NCS, 1,209,000,000,000, which share of the increase in revenue from 6.5 trillion to 9.0 trillion after the deduction of cost of collection. The total sum of 4,530,479,607 additional revenue realized from the above effort was communicated to the executive, who applied the funds to address critical challenge and advance the government development as follows. Solid mineral sectors, 1 trillion only. Recapitalization of the Bank of Agriculture, BOA, 1.5 trillion only. Recapitalization of the Bank of Industry, BOI, 500 billion naira only. Critical infrastructure projects, RHID funds, 1.5 trillion only to cater for irrigation development through River Basin Development Authority, 380 billion. Transportation infrastructure road, and rail, 700 billion, which 300 billion for construction and rehabilitation of critical roads, while 400 billion for light rail network development in urban centers. While border communities also got a sum of 50 billion. Military barracks accommodation got a sum of 250 billion naira only, while military aviation, 120 billion naira only. The Joint Committee also discussed the issue arising from excess of the detail of the budget over the bill to the tune of 270 billion. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleague, the highlight of the 2025 budget estimate is as follows. Aggregate expenditure, 54 trillion, 990 billion, 165 million, 355,396 naira. Statutory transfers, 3 trillion, 645 billion, 761 million, 358,925. Recurrent expenditure, 13 trillion, 64 billion, 9 million, 682,673. Capital expenditure, 23 trillion, 963 billion, 251 million, 624,250 naira. Debt servicing, 14 trillion, 317 billion, 142 million, 681,548. While fiscal deficit, 13.08 trillion. Deficit GDP 1.52%. It is also to note that the recent action by the United States government to suspend further intervention in the Nigerian health sector through provision of vaccines and drugs of malaria, polio, HIV, and tuberculosis, within its agency, you said, will have adverse effect of Nigerians affected by such diseases. On this note, the President proactively made a new provision of the sum of $200 million, which is equivalent to 300 billion naira, in the service-wide board to fill the gap created by the United States government suspension of intervention to Nigerian health sector. To proactively address the above-mentioned health challenge, which are currently being suffered by countries like Uganda and others. Similarly, some critical agencies of government forwarded genuine requests to Mr. President for additional funding. After a thorough examination by the Joint Appropriation Committees, additional funds were provided to the agencies, which include Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Independent Corrupt Practice and Other Offense Commission, ICPC, National Judicial Council, NJC, National Drug Law Enforcement Agencies, NDLEA, Department of State Service, DSS, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Armed Forces, among others. The budget size was increased by 700 billion to cater for the following: 270 billion differential between the detail of the budget and the bill. The provision of $200 million, which is equivalent to 300 billion for procurement of vaccine and drugs. And some agencies of government will provide funds to take care of their critical needs. The Joint Committee worked harmoniously with the leadership of the National Assembly and the executive arm of government in processing of the bill. This ensured a maximum collaboration of the two arms in the utilization of the additional revenue projection to improve the funding of some critical projects which could not be adequately funded in the budget process earlier submitted by Mr. President due to funding constraints. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, observations. The 2025 appropriation bill was presented late, comparison with the 2024 appropriation bill. It was observed that there was an upward review of the budget from 49.7 trillion to 54.9 trillion to cater for the difference between the details and the bill, the procurement of vaccines, and the additional funding in some of agencies of government. Recommendations. The committee hereby recommends that the executive presents the budget to the National Assembly not later than 3 months before the next financial year. This will help return the country to the January to December budget cycle. Having worked the harmony with the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation, to the Senate Committee on Appropriation, and subcommittees of the two chambers, the House do consider and approve a bill of an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 54,990,165,355,396 naira only, of which 3,645,761,358,925 naira only is for statutory transfers. 14,317,142,689,548 naira is only for debt service, while 13,064,009,692,673 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 23,963,251,624,250 naira is only for contribution to the development fund for the capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2025, with accompanying schedule as detailed. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, in conclusion, on behalf of the committee, I wish to thank the President of the Senate. I wish to thank the Speaker and the President of the Senate to the support to the committee. I also wish to thank the Appropriations Subcommittee for their cooperation in making the budget enactment process robust and effective. This has contributed significantly in making the report with a record time. Lastly, I thank the honorable colleagues and the staff of our Appropriation Committee who worked tirelessly to ensure successful completion of the legislative assignment. Mr. Speaker, I so submit.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable colleagues, we have heard this is no more than a synopsis, a detail of the reports from the Joint Committee of Appropriation of the House and the Senate. I think without any waste of time, we can proceed now and consider this report. And we start with number 1, issue an appropriation of 54,990,165,355,396 naira from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation for 2025. Carried. And in so doing, the Accountant General of the Federation shall, when authorized to do so by warrants signed by the Minister charged with responsibility for finance, pay out of the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation during the year ending on the 31st day of December 2025, the sums specified by the warrants, not exceeding in the aggregate 54,990,165,355,396 naira only for the year ending 31st day of December 2025. Carried. Fourth schedule, the amount mentioned in subsection 1 of this section shall be appropriated I thought you want the details. This is an important event, and I think we deserve to at least get the highlights before we go to other matters.
Order, please. Order, please.
With your kind permission, let us take the major ones, and then the rest we can probably just take the main summaries. The fourth schedule, the amount mentioned in subsection 1 of this section shall be appropriated to heads of expenditure as indicated in the schedule to this bill. Carried. No part of amount aforesaid shall be released from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation after the end of the year mentioned in subsection 1 of this section. Carried. Release of funds from the consolidated revenue. All amounts appropriated under this bill shall be released from the consolidated revenue fund of the Federation only for the purpose specified in the schedule to this bill. Carried.
Carried.
Vehement. In the event that the implementation of any of the projects intended to be undertaken under this bill cannot be completed without vehement, such vehement shall only be effected with the prior approval of the National Assembly. Carried. Corrigendum. Any error in the schedule to this bill that may hinder the implementation of projects and programs in ministries, departments, and agencies may be corrected through a corrigendum issued by the National Assembly in any of the following circumstances. A, if the total sum of the project or program is not affected. Carried. Where the projects or programs are domiciled in ministries, departments, and agencies that lack jurisdiction to execute such projects. Carried. Where the execution of projects or programs by ministries, departments, and agencies are overtaken by events. Carried. Where projects are wrongly costed, cited, or posted to ministries, departments, or agencies. Carried. Excess revenue. The Accountant General of the Federation shall immediately upon the coming into force of this bill maintain a separate record for the documentation of revenue accruing to the Consolidated Revenue Fund in excess of oil price benchmark adopted in this budget. Carried. Such revenues as specified in subsection 1 of this section refers to revenues accruing from sales of government crude oil in excess of the approved benchmark price per barrel, the petroleum profit tax and royalty on oil and gas. Carried. Authorization. No funds shall be paid out of the monies arising from the record specified in section 5 subsection 1 except by an act or approval of the National Assembly. Carried. The Accountant General of the Federation shall forward to the National Assembly full details of funds released to the government agencies immediately when such funds are released. Carried. Information on funds releases. The Minister of Finance shall ensure that funds appropriated under this act are released to the appropriate agencies and or organs of government as and when due, provided that no funds for any quarter of the fiscal year shall be deferred without prior waiver from the National Assembly. Carried. Due process certification. The Department of Government charged with the responsibility of certifying that due processes have been complied with in the processing of implementation of projects shall ensure that all processes of approval are completed within the specified period as provided for in the Public Procurement Act. Carried. Information on internally generated revenue, domestic and foreign assistance. All accounting officers of ministries, parastatals, and departments of government who control heads of expenditures shall, upon the coming into effect of this bill, furnish the National Assembly on quarterly basis with detailed information on 1, the internally generated revenue of the agency in any form, and 2, all foreign and domestic assistance received from any agency, person, or organization in any form. Carried. Power of Nigerian embassies and missions. The missions and embassies shall constitute their tenders board as in a parastatal tenders board within the requisite threshold in compliance with the extant executive circular and the provisions of the Public Procurement Act. Carried. Detailed estimate. The detailed estimates of expenditure are set out in the second schedule to this bill. Carried. Expiry, Constitution 1999. In line with the provisions of Section 318 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, this bill expires after 12 months, starting from 1st day of January to 31st day of December 2025 when assented to. Carried? Short title. This bill may be cited as the Appropriation Bill 2025. Carried? Honorable colleagues, so we now go into the major. Schedule of revenues. Part A, federal government shares of gross federation revenues. You have the figures with you. Carried? Part B, deductions. Carried? Part C, federal government share of net federation revenues. Carried? Part D, independent revenues. Carried? Part E, other dividends. That's less NLNG dividend captured in gross federation revenues. Carried? Aids and grants on Part 5. Carried? Part G, special funds and account receipts. Carried? Government-owned enterprises, that's net of operating surplus. Carried? Orders on Part 1. Carried? Aggregate revenue / inflow expenditures. Carried? And they are statutory transfers. Carried? Debt service and sinking fund. Carried? Recurrent non-debt expenditure. Carried? Capital expenditure, Part M. Carried? Surplus from deficit. Carried? Financing items. Debt financing, asset sales and privatization, which is contained on Part O. Asset sales and privatization. Carried? Part P, multilateral and bilateral projects tied loans. Carried? We go to aggregate financing items. Schedule Part A, which is federal government share of gross federation revenues. Share of federation revenues. Number 1, federal government share of main pool. Carried? Federal government share of VAT pool. Carried? Federal government share of EMTL. Carried? Total share of federation revenues. Carried? We go to Part B, deductions. Under deductions, we have oil and gas deductions. Carried? Non-oil deductions, cost of collection. Carried? Transfer to FCT, ecological stabilization and natural resources funds. Carried? Total deductions. Carried? We go to Part C, federal government share of net federation revenues. And in this regard, federal government share of net federation revenues. Number 7, which is federal government share of main pool. Carried? Federal government share of VAT pool. Carried? Federal government share of EMTL. Carried? Total share of federation revenues. Carried? We go to Part D, independent revenues. Under it, we have tax revenues as reflected under Head 10. Tax revenues. Carried? Non-tax revenues. Carried? Operation surplus. Carried? Total independent revenues. Carried? We go to Schedule Part E, other dividends. NLNG. Carried? Bank of Industry. Carried? Development Bank of Nigeria. Carried? Bank of Agriculture. Carried? Galaxy Backbone. Carried? Total dividends. Carried? We go to Schedule Part F, aids and grants. And under aids and grants, we have foreign aid and grants in cash. Carried? Total aids and grants. Carried? We go to Schedule Part G, special levies, accounts and transfers to CRF/CDF. Under it, we have special levies accounts, transfers to CRF and CDF, special accounts carried, total special levies and accounts carried, schedule part H, government-owned enterprises. Under it, we have government-owned enterprises carried. We have government operating surplus, which is equivalent to 80% of what is captured in independent revenue carried. Total government revenues, net of operating surplus carried. We go to Schedule Part I, others. And under others, we have education tax, that's state fund, carried. Signature bonus for renewals, carried. Signature bonus, share of oil price royalty, carried. Recoveries, assets and fines, carried. Total, others, carried. Schedule Part J, statutory transfers. We have National Judicial Council carried. Niger Delta Development Commission carried. Southeast Development Commission carried. Northwest Development Commission carried. Southwest Development Commission carried. South Development Commission carried. North Central Development Commission carried. Universal Basic Education Commission carried. National Assembly carried. Public Complaint Commission carried. Independent National Electoral Commission carried. National Human Rights Commission carried. Northeast Development Commission carried. Basic Healthcare Provision Fund carried. National Agency for Science and Engineering, NASENI, carried. Total statutory transfers carried. We go to Schedule Part K, debt service. Under debt service, we have domestic debts, including ways and means, carried. Foreign debts, carried. Subtotal, carried. Sinking fund. Under sinking fund, we have sinking fund to retire maturing promissory notes, carried. Subtotal, carried. Total debt service, carried. We go to Schedule Part L, recurrent and non-expenditure. Under it, non-debt, ministry, department, and agency. Executive, presidency, carried. Ministry of Defense, carried. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, carried. Are you sure that we don't want to revisit defense? It appears that the amount here is over-bloated. Oh, carried. Thank you. I just wanted to know if we consent to it or not. Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, carried. Federal Ministry of Art, Culture, and Creative Economy, carried. Federal Ministry of Tourism, carried. Ministry of Interior, carried. Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, carried. Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, carried. Ministry of Police Affairs, carried. Federal Ministry of Communication, Innovation, and Digital Economy, carried. National Security Advisor, carried. Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, carried. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, carried. Federal Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, carried. Federal Ministry of Livestock, carried. Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, carried. Federal Ministry of Finance, carried. Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, carried. Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, carried. Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, carried. Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, carried. Federal Ministry of Transportation, carried. Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, carried. Federal Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace, carried. Federal Ministry of Power, carried. Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, carried. Federal Ministry of Steel Development, carried. Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, carried. Federal Ministry of Works, carried. Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, carried. National Salaries, Incomes, and Wages Commission, carried. Fiscal Responsibility Commission, carried. Federal Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation. Are we sure? No review? We have an option to review now. Downward. Carried. Federal Ministry of Justice, carried. Independent Corrupt Practices and Related Offenses Commission, carried. Federal Capital Territory Administration, carried. Federal Ministry of Niger Delta Development, carried. Federal Ministry of Youth, carried. Federal Ministry of Sports Development, carried. Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, carried. Federal Ministry of Education, carried. Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, carried. Federal Ministry of Environment, carried. National Population Commission, carried. Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, carried. Subtotal Executive, carried. Federal Executive Bodies, starting with Code of Conduct Bureau, carried. Code of Conduct Tribunal, carried. Federal Character Commission, carried. Federal Civil Service Commission, carried. Police Service Commission, carried. Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission, carried. Subtotal Federal Executive Bodies, carried. Government-owned enterprises, recurrent, carried. Third Fund, recurrent, carried. Schedule for pension, gratuities, and retirees benefits. Total allocation, carried. Office of the Head of Service, Civil Service, civilian pension, carried. Pensions, carried. Pension running costs, carried. Unfunded liabilities, carried. Pension increment areas for 2024, carried. We go to military pensions and gratuities. Under it, we have pension and gratuities, carried. Expected retirees, carried. Death benefits, carried. Administrative charges, carried. Pension running costs, carried. Medical retirees, carried. Arrears of gratuities, January 2019 to December 2021, carried. Arrears of pensions, January 2019 to December 2021, carried. Arrears of death benefits, carried. Verification exercise, carried. Security Department allowance, including arrears for 2017, 2018, and 2019, carried. NHIS military retirees, carried. DIA civilian staff pension and gratuities, carried. Pension, carried. Gratuity, administrative charges, arrears of pension, minimum wage, and consequential adjustment, carried. Department of State Security, carried. Pensions including arrears, carried. Pension running costs, carried. Verification exercise, carried. Arrears of pension, minimum wage adjustment August to December 2024, carried. Minimum wage adjustment for 2025, carried. We go to Nigerian Intelligence Agency. Pensions and dependents benefits, carried. Pension running costs, carried. Gratuity stroke long service severance package, carried. Arrears of pension, minimum wage adjustment, carried. Arrears of gratuity, minimum wage adjustment, carried. Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, which has 28 billion, carried. Defunct privatized agencies pension, carried. Pension increment arrears January to December 2024, carried. Pension running costs carried. Unfunded liabilities carried. We go to police pension gratuities carried. Pensions carried. Pension running costs carried. Pension increment carried. Customs and Immigration and Prisons Pension Office carried. Pensions carried. Pension running costs carried. Pension for retired CGs and DCGs carried. Pension increment arrears for 2024 carried. Universities pensions including arrears carried. Pensions carried. Parastatals pensions and railway pensions carried. Pensions carried. Schedule on NELMCOM carried. NELMCOM pensions and arrears carried. Pension running costs carried. National Pensions Commission. Arrears of pensions, National Pension Commissions carried. Arrears of pension liabilities beginning with payment into redemption fund carried. Pension protection fund carried. Increase in pension carried. Benefits of retired professors carried. Other pensions carried. Benefits of retired heads of service and permanent secretaries carried. Severance benefits to retired heads of government, agencies, and parastatals carried. Entitlements of former presidents, heads of states, and vice presidents and chief of general staff carried. Other service-wide votes carried. Payment of outstanding debt benefit to civil servants carried. Payment of outstanding debt benefit to police carried. Group life insurance for all MDAs, including DSS, corpus, plus administration and monitoring carried. Insurance of FGN sensitive assets carried. Payment for promotion and salary arrears carried. Minimum wage related adjustments carried. Military operations, Lafia, Dole, and other operations of the armed forces carried. Settlement of MDA's electricity bills debts carried. IPPIS capturing and monitoring carried. Margin for increases in cost and recurrent adjustment cost carried. Presidential amnesty program reintegration of transformed ex-militants carried. Service-wide training of budget and planning officers on GIFMI's budget preparation system, as well as monitoring and evaluation of all projects nationwide carried. National Social Investment Program Agency recurrent carried. Contingency recurrent carried. International sporting competitions carried. TSA operations carried. Employee Compensation Act, Employees Compensation Fund carried. Contribution to international organizations carried. Gavi/immunization carried. Malaria vaccination of infants carried. Vaccines and devices tracking system carried. Police operations fund carried. Are you sure? Carried? Mikey? Carried? Carried. Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Special Operation Funds carried. National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy carried. Provision for core members, NHIS carried. Provision for core members, National Social Insurance Trust Fund carried. Presidential Policy and Coordination Office carried. National Homegrown School Feeding Program carried. Presidential Revenue Monitoring and Reconciliation Committee carried. Total CRF charges carried. Total recurrent non-debt carried. Schedule Part M, capital expenditure. Ministry, department, and agency. Presidency carried. Ministry of Defense carried. Are we sure? Are we seeing the figure there? Carried. Ministry of Foreign Affairs carried. Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation carried. Ministry of Art, Culture and Creative Economy, carried. Federal Ministry of Tourism, carried. Ministry of Interior, carried. Office of the Head of Service, Civil Service of the Federation, carried. Auditor General for the Federation, carried. Ministry of Police Affairs, carried. Federal Ministry of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy, carried. National Security Advisor, carried. Observation. What?
Number one, the National Security Advisor, 179.
191.
179.
179 is Presidential Revenue Monitoring. It's 191.
What I have is 179.
Oh, really? But I hope the figures are rhyming.
No, I'm not even talking about figures. I'm talking about the description. When you say National Security Advisor, it's as if it is personal.
That is it.
It should be the
Office of the National Security Advisor.
Yes,
Can
sir.
we correct that, please? Office of the National Security Advisor. Thank you for the observation. $191, right? One what? What is that one? Well, by my own is numbered like that, but since the figures are the same, the titles are the same, we can take them as they are. Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, carried. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, carried. Federal Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, carried.
Mr. Speaker, observation. The same thing applied to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
Office, can we correct?
Office.
Office of the Secretary. Okay? Please make the correction. Federal Ministry of Livestock, carried.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yep.
The same thing applies to the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation.
Please, let's make the correction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's make the same correction there, please. Federal Ministry of Livestock, carried. Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, carried. Federal Ministry of Finance, carried. Are you sure? Is it not too much? How many staff do they have?
Observation.
Yeah. Carried. Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, carried. Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, carried. Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, carried. Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, carried. Federal Ministry of Transportation, carried. Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy, carried. Federal Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace, carried. Federal Ministry of Power, carried. Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, carried. Federal Ministry of Steel Development, carried. Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, carried. Federal Ministry of Works. Again, should we suspend this one?
Increase it, sir.
And do an executive session first. Should we go ahead, honorable colleagues?
Observation, sir.
Observation. What is it? Shetima.
Yes, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable colleagues, Mr. Chairman, sir, I have observation on the solid minerals. Solid minerals development. Number on my own report is 196. Mr. Speaker,
You have 196 in your own?
yes, sir.
Are you sure you are looking at the capital component?
That's the capital component, sir. You are reading,
The
I'm following
capital.
you. The serial number
Is that what you have there?
differs from your own, sir. So my
Is
observation
it
is
the
the issue of this,
serialization you are talking about?
about the
What
figure,
amount?
sir.
The serialization.
Yes, sir, the figure, sir.
What is the figure?
You know, we may recall when we got the additional revenue for 4 trillion, 4.something trillion. They said that the 1 trillion was for solid minerals development.
Yeah.
So it has not been reflected here. That's what I want clarification.
Chair
sir.
appropriation, can you shed light
Yes,
on
sir.
that? Thank you, Honorable Shetima.
The money domiciled under service-wide board, 1 trillion. Yeah.
Okay. Are you satisfied? Okay, so we make progress. Federal Ministry of Steel Development carried. Sorry, Ministry of Petroleum Resources carried. Ministry of Steel Development carried. Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals Development carried. Federal Ministry of Works carried. Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development carried. National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission carried. Fiscal Responsibility Commission carried. Federal Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation carried. Federal Ministry of Justice carried. Independent Corrupt Practices and Related Offenses Commission carried. Federal Capital Territory Administration carried. Federal Ministry of Niger Delta Development carried. Federal Ministry of Youth.
Observation, sir.
Pardon?
Observation.
Which one?
Ministry of Regional Development.
Oh, can we make the correction? Federal Ministry of Regional Development? Yes, very good observation. Otherwise, they could lose the whole entire budget if the name is not correctly mentioned. Thank you for that good observation. Federal Ministry of Youth carried. Federal Ministry of Sport Development carried.
Observation, sir.
Yes.
We don't have Ministry of Sport anymore. It's National Sport Commission, sir.
That is true again. Very true. Can we make the correction, please? National Sports Commission instead of Federal Ministry of Sports Development. Thank you for the observation. Federal Ministry of Women Affairs carried. Yes.
Money should be added, it's too small.
At this hour,
You just observe it, put it down. Next time.
the only place where we can take this money and add to women affairs is drugs
Well,
and
next time we're talking about
drugs
next
and
time.
narcotics. If, Madam, you will accept, we take from the budget of your ministry and add to women affairs for the time being. Agreed? Yours is noted. I'm sure during subsequent budgets, we will try to see what we can do to improve. Federal Ministry of Education carried. Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare carried. Federal Ministry of Environment carried. National Population Commission carried. Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation carried. Subtotal Executive carried. Code of Conduct Bureau carried. Code of Conduct Tribunal carried. Federal Character Commission carried. Federal Civil Service Commission carried. Police Service Commission carried. Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission carried. Subtotal Federal Executive Bodies carried. Government-owned enterprises capital carried. Third Fund capital carried. Multilateral and bilateral loan-funded projects, beginning with Federal Ministry of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy carried. Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security carried. Federal Ministry of Women Affairs carried. Federal Ministry of Education carried. Federal Ministry of Environment carried. Federal Capital Territory carried. Federal Ministry of Finance carried. Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning carried. Federal Ministry of Budget of Health and Social Welfare carried. Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation carried. Ministry of Interior carried. Federal Ministry of Power carried. Federal Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation carried. Federal Ministry of Works carried. Multilateral and bilateral loan funded totaling 3.364 trillion carried. FGN Special Intervention Program and Social Housing Family Homes carried. National Youth Investment Fund carried. Counterpart funding for donor-supported programs carried. Payment of local contractors' debt and other liabilities carried. Galaxy Backbone carried. IPPS Capital carried. OSAP SDGs carried. Special projects beginning with recapitalization of development finance institutions carried. Zonal intervention projects carried. Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board carried. Subscriptions to shares in international organizations carried. National development plans carried. Contingency capital carried. Aid and grants funded projects carried. Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council carried. Refund of borrowed funds from the Education Task Fund, TED Fund carried. Transfer through HyperDay carried. National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy, Federal Government commitment including NSIP of scaling carried. Recapitalization of Ministry of Finance Incorporated, MOFI, carried. Federal Government share of oil price royalty transferred to NSIA carried. Give Means Capital carried. Presidential Policy and Coordination Office carried. Presidential Committee on Health Sector Reform carried. National Social Investment Program Agency carried. Consumer Credit Fund carried. Infrastructure Project Preparation Fund carried. Mortgage Development Promotion Fund carried. Student Loan Scheme carried. Office of the Presidential Advisor on Energy carried. Clean Energy Transition Initiative Development of Local Infrastructure Conversion to CNG Electric Vehicles etc. carried. Nigerian Intelligence Agency Hospital carried. Federal Inland Revenue Service Building carried. Take-off grant for Obasikiru Kayode Adetona School of Governance Studies carried. Presidential Revenue Monitoring and Reconciliation Committee carried. SDG Service-wide Board carried. NAS Service-wide Board carried. Renewed hope medical relief for HIV, TB, malaria, etc. carried. NHIA, yes, yep.
Mr. Speaker, I think we should reject this a little bit by deleting renewed hope, because that's like a political slogan. We just leave it medical relief, which is the real purpose. No, I'm not being political, but
it is the name of a program. It is the name of a program. There is nothing wrong with it.
Mr. Speaker, this is our budget.
If
we have medical relief for HIV, TB, malaria, PVC,
it's the title of the program. When you remove it, you lose the whole essence. You understand?
The slogan should come.
It's not a slogan. It's the name of the program. And the president has the right to put any name.
It's not harmful if we just remove renewed hope. Mr. Speaker, you know that
I'm sure I don't want to humble you, my leader. Let's just maintain it and make progress. I beg you. Are you not in support, honorable colleagues?
Carried.
Thank you. God bless you. God bless you.
No.
NHIA Catastrophic Health Insurance Fund carried. Solid Mineral Sector carried. Recapitalization of the Bank of Agriculture carried. Critical Infrastructure Projects total carried. Irrigation Development for River Basin Development Authorities carried. Transportation, infrastructure, roads and rails carried. Roads carried. Light rail carried. And the light rail includes Kano carried.
Observation.
Ogun carried.
Observation, sir.
Kaduna carried.
Observation, Mr. Speaker.
Lagos carried. What's the observation?
Observation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Right Honorable Comrade Chineduoga. Mr. Speaker, I want to bring the attention of the House in this item 281, light rail, Kano, Ogun, Lagos. Mr. Speaker, I'm from a zone, and none of the southeast and other zones are captured in this particular place. And this is a national budget. We have to look at it critically. It's not for a particular state, Mr. Speaker. A southeast need to be included. That is my point of order, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Your observation is noted, and we'll bring it to the attention of
Northeast has not been captured too.
President. I am sure in the course of the year there might be...
Mr. Speaker, no other time. It is now. Let us do it now. Mr. Speaker, observation.
They are already ongoing now.
Yours is noted, Honorable, and we'll bring it to the attention of Mr. President. If order. In the near future, we'll ensure that that balancing is done. Okay? Please, let's make progress.
Order, please. Order, please.
Border communities infrastructure carried. Military barracks accommodation carried. Military
Event has already overtaken it.
Total capital supplementation carried. Total capital expenditure.
Observation,
carried.
Mr. Speaker.
South
for the rail.
carried.
South. Decorum, please. My highly esteemed colleagues, decorum, please. Let's maintain some kind of decorum, please.
Order, please. When I'm talking, you are not supposed to also be talking. You can only raise your voice and expect to be recognized. But it's not good when we are talking, you are also talking. It's very dishonorable to us. Please. I have made my own statement or remark concerning that particular observation. And what I said is that we will bring this to the attention of Mr. President. Likely there may be another supplementary within the year. If that kind of opportunity unfolds, we will make sure that this request is channeled. Okay?
Another observation, sir.
Thank you very much. What observation?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's still on item 282, light rails. I think it didn't indicate anything, so it's an observation.
Pardon?
Something has been omitted. 282.
Which one is that? 280?
No, 282. Light rails.
Light rails.
So no
right?
location, nothing. So
Pardon?
no location, no designation, just light rails.
What did you say? Light rail is the...
But all of them has money. Even that point has money again. Look at it.
It's a mistake. But all the ones under that one are the light rail provisions.
Look at it there. Okay.
The ones under it are the provisions, okay? Thank you.
Observation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, observation, please.
Revert back to plenary.
Observation.
To report progress.
Mr. Speaker, observation, please.
Who is making the observation?
Yes, from this side. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Davidson Kolawole. I'm a member representing the Dosi Mamba, Ile-Jemeje Federal Constituency. My observation has to do with 267, Nigeria Intelligence Agency, NIA.
267.
267, sir. 267.
After this, we will not consider any other.
No. We are not. 267, sir.
Let me just give him the benefit. What is the problem?
Yes, the problem is the amount allocated for an hospital.
Pardon?
Amount allocated for an hospital for an agency. Well, no, it doesn't make sense, sir. For us to have, for the budget to appropriate 238 billion for an hospital for an agency, when we allocated 1.7 billion for
the rule of the House.
State.
If you have that observation before we reach that number,
yes,
you should have raised
I have
that
the same observation, sir. You didn't listen to us.
But we have already hit the gavel. And that means the House has taken a position on it.
It's okay.
So sorry about it, please. Leader.
Observation, Mr. Speaker.
Who is raising an observation?
Over here, Mr. Speaker.
Where? Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker,
you omitted 277, which is a recapitalization of bank industry. And also to remind Mr. Speaker,
we omitted.
You didn't call it, yes, sir.
I didn't
mention it. You didn't mention it. And equally to lend my voice, Mr. Speaker, the exclusion of the southeast
Can I see?
in the rail and roads from that infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, is one about fairness and one with historical implications for unity and development of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, I'm taking you by your words that maybe by the supplementary budget, the southeast will be fully captured in the roads and rail infrastructures.
Yeah.
And any other zone that is excluded, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Observation, Mr. Speaker.
Others will come in subsequent budgets now.
When?
It's not something that can be done generally. It has to start somewhere, you know? Okay? So, Leader, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for an extensive and very dexterous performance in going through the budget. Having concluded that assignment, I rise to move that the House do revert to plenary and to get the report on the Committee of Supply of Mr. Speaker. I so move.
Minority Leader, please can you second?
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I second the motion that the House do revert back to plenary to report progress. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. That is have it. House has resolved back to plenary. Thank you.
Let me have that water. Thank you. Yeah, put it there. Here. Thank you. Order, please. Order, honorable colleagues. Please, can we find our seats?
Members,
order, please. Order.
Members, do take your seats for the Speaker to proceed deliberations.
Order, please. Order.
Ahmedja, go back to your seat, please.
Honorable mascots, please, can you find your seat? Sardona, we're waiting for you. Honorable
Adodogwa.
Honorable colleagues, the House and Committee of Supply considered the report of the Committee on Appropriations on a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 54,990,165,355,396 naira only, of which 3,645,000,000 761,358,925 naira only is for statutory transfers, while 14,689,548 naira only is for debt service. The sum of 13 trillion 64 billion 9,682,673 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 23 trillion 963 billion 251 million 624,250 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for the capital expenditure for the year ending 31st December 2025. And in so doing, approved clauses 1 to 13, the schedules as amended, explanatory memorandum, and the long title of the bill. Leader of the House, can you move that the House adopt the report of this Committee of Supply?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House do adopt the report from the Committee of Supply as efficiently and effectively rendered by Mr. Speaker. I so move.
The Minority Leader, please, can you second?
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the House do adopt the report as a working document of the Assembly. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk. Minority Leader, 1 minute, please.
Order, please. Distinguished honorable colleagues, order, please. Order, please. Honorable Kalabaina, right, Honorable Kalabaina. Right, Honorable Kalambaina, please.
The Leader of the House, please can you move for the suspension of our relevant rules to allow us to do the third reading of this bill, please.
Mr. Speaker, Julius Ihovere, Owen Federal Constituency, Edo State, I rise to move that we suspend the relevant rules to enable the House take the third reading on this very important and urgent bill. I so move.
Minority Leader,
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we do set aside our rules to enable us to take the third reading today. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members. A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 54,990,165,355,396 naira only, of which 3,645,761,358,925 naira only is for statutory transfers. 14,317,142,689,548 naira. $588 naira. $14,317,142,689,548 naira only is for debt service. 13,64,9,682,000.
Order, silence, please.
Is for the current non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 23,251,624,250 naira only is for contribution to the development of fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st December 2025. Third reading.
Being read for the third time and passed. Leader, can you move for the House to suspend its relevant rules again to adopt the votes and proceedings of today?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House will suspend the relevant sections of our rules to enable us to adopt the votes and proceedings of the consideration process today. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we do adopt our proceedings, the votes and proceedings of today. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. The minority caucus is still reminding us about the meeting of all minority parties that is supposed to take place immediately after plenary. So please advise from here to move to conference room 028. That's the temporary chamber for that meeting. Announcer, Minority Leader. The message is for you people to give us a little more. We are still hungry, APC. Give us at least 10 to 20, and then we just keep quiet.
Majority party.
Maybe Orobuja will send you. Leader, please can you move for the adjournment?
Mr. Speaker, Professor Julius Ihanvere, let me commend the Chairman Appropriations and his team for an excellent job. Having done that, I rise to move that the House do adjourn plenary to Tuesday next week, same venue. I so move.
Minority Leader, please can you...
Order! Order, the House is still in session.
Say aye. Those against you say nay. The ayes have it. House adjourned to Tuesday next week, 11 a.m.